Shake, Sinora, shake your body liner. Shake, 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 Sinora, shake it all the time.
We just want to welcome you to another episode. We have Robert with us this week to talk about a very special and rare part of epilepsy that not many know about. It's called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. And again, not many people probably know about it because it's very, very rare. So he was kind enough to fill us in a little bit about it and his experience with it. So Robert, if you would like to tell them what it is and all that fun stuff, even though it's not fun, you know what I mean, I would appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I'm a videographer and I'm really trying to make sure that I don't look stupid as far as lighting.
Oh no, we say take the audio out so you can look as stupid as you want.
Okay.
But no worries.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, you could be in a clown suit. No one will know right now. I promise.
Okay. So, did you just want me to explain it again?
Yeah, that's fine if you don't mind.
Cool. So Stevens-Johnson syndrome is a disease that comes from medications, mostly epilepsy medications. I think there's other medications it comes from as well, but it's a disease that it starts as blisters on your tongue and then it goes all over your body from there. A lot of different things happen because of that. As far as your nails, some nails come off. I don't know if you can see that well. See that? Nail pop off. Some your gums get scarred, so my gums are very sensitive. Sometimes they bleed. Your eyes are red, bloodshot red for forever, pretty much. Yeah, little things like that. There's other ones, but little things like that though. It affects.
Is it something that's constant? Can it get cured? Does it come back? Type of thing? How does it go?
It doesn't come back. It's usually a one-time thing, unless you continue to take the medication. But it's usually a one-time thing. So the healing is different depending on what you're going through. So there is different prescribed like lotions and stuff like that to help your skin heal. As far as the darkness on your skin that it causes, like causes dark spots all over your skin. So there's some skin creams to help that. There is actually a product that somebody reached out to me about. They wanted me to try it out. It's for the nails, so it helps your nails grow back. So there's stuff like that you could do. I haven't done it yet, but I plan on doing that. Little stuff like that. Like I use eye drops. I use red eyes. So stuff like that. But it's pretty much permanent. Like the scars, not much you could do, but there's stuff you could do that help you along the way though. But they're pretty permanent though.
Okay, because I've heard some types of, like, I don't want to call it an infection because I'm not quite sure if that's the proper term, but
it's like an allergic reaction from what I understand.
Yep, it's an allergic reaction.
Okay. Yep. They can come back, not this one, but I've heard some of them can like be reoccurring and stuff like that. So I was like, I've seen some of the stuff just like by Googling it. I've seen some of the blisters around the lips and the eyes and stuff like that. And again, it's going to vary per person, but what medication caused this for you?
So for me, it was a medication called Lamictal.
Okay.
Yeah, so it turns out, believe it or not, it wasn't just the medication that caused it, it was the amount of the medication that they gave me. So they gave me more medication than they were supposed to.
Okay.
Because of my age and weight. So so yeah, that had something to do with it, along with the allergic reaction. But like I said, it wasn't really confirmed that it was an allergic reaction yet, because if they gave me too much, maybe it was just that. But
right. And it's what was I gonna say? So I know you don't just have Stevens-Johnson, you also obviously have epilepsy. Do you want to talk a little bit about your epilepsy as well? Because I don't want to just target you with an allergic reaction.
No, yeah, you're good. I've had epilepsy since I was 2. So this large reaction happened when I was 12. But yeah, epilepsy. Me and my sister both had it, but before that, it wasn't really the type of thing that ran in our family or anything.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, we both had it. My sister's had it. She didn't have it as long as me. She had it. I think she got it when she was about 11, so she was older than me. I'm not really sure exactly what age. I think 10 maybe. But yeah, she was older, so she had it for a little while, but she got lucky. Well, lucky her, she doesn't have it. She stopped having them long before I
So
did.
she's been seizure free for a while.
Yeah, for a while. Probably like at this point, it's probably been like a good 10 to 12 years.
Oh,
Seizure.
wow.
Yeah, she's been seizure free for a while.
Wow. So it's almost, she might be at that age where she's one of the people that actually grew out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very rare. You got a lot of rare stuff going on in your genetics.
Yeah.
And so did the whole Steven Johnson syndrome have like a mental effect on you at all? Did it make you
Um,
feel
that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that question. It did. It did have a mental effect on me. I wouldn't say originally, right? I wouldn't say that that was a part of the side effects, but of course, you could imagine it does have an effect on you not understanding. So
Mhm.
in that sense, mentally, it definitely affected me because, I was too young. I was 12 at the time. I was too young to understand exactly what was going on and what happened, why it happened. So in that aspect, yeah, it was definitely affected me mentally. It affected me
Mhm.
emotionally in the sense of I wasn't confident at all in myself, and I didn't really believe. Well, no, switch that. I believed the things that people were saying, so I didn't really believe that I was good enough. Just a lot of doubts. It brought a lot of doubts, so it definitely affected me in that sense mentally, where I really didn't. I was shelled. I was locked off. I only had a few friends, and I stuck to them. Didn't talk to a lot of people. Didn't go to a lot of parties. So it definitely
Mhm.
affected me in the sense of I didn't really. I wasn't myself. I wasn't like I used to be before this all happened to me.
And have people like misconstrued it as like self-harm or anything like that for you? Because I know now, like you said, it's just scars. So I know people don't understand it.
Um, no. So no one has ever misconstrued it as that. I think they were more just confused of what it was. I've never been approached with anybody asking specifically, did you do this to yourself or anything like that? But I think people allow their thoughts and ideas to run wild. So, you know,
Mhm.
it meant
Yeah,
to
I was
me.
thinking especially the age of 12 is when you're forming all of these opinions about yourself and other people, so that's a really difficult age
Right.
to have that happen as well.
Yeah.
That's when kids are, I don't want to say the meanest, but the most judgmental. So
Middle
middle
school age is
school,
tough, yeah.
middle school is tough. If we're both teachers and neither of us teach middle school for that reason. Middle school is tough. You couldn't
Yeah.
pay me enough. Um, Bless all those that teach middle school. I could not do it.
Yeah.
But I could also, I don't, this is gonna sound horrible, but I can only imagine, people's thoughts would be like, is he being abused? Like, what's going on? Because like
Mhm.
you said, you don't know. I looked like when I hit my face on the concrete when I had a seizures, they thought I like got in a fight with my boyfriend or something because my eye was swollen and puffy and I was missing a tooth. And I was like, no, but so I can
Yeah.
only imagine, like you said, that people's just kind of go with their thoughts and form their own opinions.
Right. The most unlucky thing for me though was that I already was that kid looked at as that kid. Like I said, I had epilepsy since I was 2, so I was already looked at as that kid that, oh, this kid's different. And like I said, we're so young, we don't really understand a lot. So even if you may have heard about epilepsy as a kid, you don't really can't really piece it together until you
Mm-hmm.
get to know some as it. So with that being said, a lot of people didn't really get to know me because they weren't sure of it. They were scared. So I was already being prejudged for having epilepsy and being that kid that might have a seizure. So and then, add on to that all of this, it's like that's a lot. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people telling you what you are and what you look like and all this. And like you said, as a kid, you're super impressionable. So you just go with it. You just even if you don't want to, you just go with it. Like, oh, they're
Mhm.
probably
It's just quote unquote weird to them because they don't, experience it themselves. And that's just how kids
I mean,
go.
let's be honest, looking at when we had American Epilepsy Month back in November and now Canadian Epilepsy Month this month, looking at what everyone said, like there are adults out there who still don't get it. It's one of those, if you don't have a connection to it, you don't really care about it. You don't really care to learn about it. You're just kind of like, oh, the thing that makes you shake. Okay.
what
Right.
did they say if you don't mind me asking? What were some things?
What they were asking, a lot of the things, because as you know, majority of it's invisible, they were saying, well, that's not like a seizure I've ever seen before, or like that doesn't look like one I've had. Well, that can't be a seizure because you aren't shaking, like all this stuff. And I'm like, adults are really still saying this type of
I
stuff?
had
Because
a teacher in high school, when I told him that I had a seizure writing a paper, in email reply back saying, I can't tell if you're joking and trying to be funny or you actually have a medical condition that would cause you to have a seizure. And that was
not
a
teachers
teacher when I was in high
are
school.
lucky they didn't lose their job, to be honest with you.
And
Yeah.
my response
Why
was,
would somebody joke about something like that? Like you
well,
don't.
my response was, I have epilepsy. I told you when I was diagnosed, and his response to that wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry. It was, oh, well, that's obviously something you can't control. Like, thank you. I know that's something I can't control.
Well, if I could control, I wouldn't be epileptic, you dunce. Like, duh. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I was kind of mind blown with some of the things that people were sending to me, like how many people are doubted because they don't have the seizures that they look like, that they portray awfully in movies. And every single
Even
case of
people who do
epilepsy is
have
different.
those seizures, they don't look like that.
Exactly. I've had a pretty violent one and I didn't look like I was, Emily Rose or anything like that. It was kind of weird. But like, that they try to portray those two together. But it's like, yeah, they just, like you said, like everyone's is different. Like, I'm not sure if your seizures are, convulsive or not, but then you add this, skin reaction to it, and then it makes it legitimately physical and they can see it. And then
Right.
they're like,
I
oh,
had
okay.
grandma seizures, so they did see my seizures actually. My seizures were really, really aggressive at a point. So I had grandma seizures, but I also would sometimes have absent seizures where I would literally now a lot of those went unknown. Like a lot of people didn't realize I was having them to the point where I actually was put in remedial classes due to the fact that I had so many seizures. One, I would forget the whole day after I had a seizure. And
Mhm.
two, that was the only teacher that could sit there and keep an eye on me, make sure I'm not dozing off and doing anything because those bigger classes, the teacher can't help
Right.
me. So
And
Yeah,
probably the teacher that had seizure training.
right.
yeah.
So
I was
so yeah.
diagnosed with absence when I was 17, and I mean, we pretty much know now that was having them way before then, but we
hmm
just didn't know that a seizure could look anything besides a grand mal,
hmm
um, and B, like that it could even be so simple as someone looking like they're staring off into space. But I remember my grades were really bad in middle school,
hmm
because now knowing like I was having seizures all the time, my memory was terrible. I was constantly missing things, but I went from like a straight A student in like sixth grade in seventh grade to eighth grade getting C's and D's in math and science classes and stuff. It was crazy.
That was me too, because I just didn't care. And it wasn't like I've always liked, I have a master's degree, so I was like, I like learning, but I got to a point, and I think that's probably when my seizures started, that I was just like, whatever, I don't care anymore.
Well, I
And I just,
cared, but there was nothing I
but
could
I
do
was just
about
so exhausted. I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's nothing I can do. I just kind of gave up. and I was just defeated with myself. I was like, oh, whatever. And, looking back on it, I'm probably like, well, that was probably my epilepsy taking over. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But like you said, I have absence seizures too. Mine are just kind of like staring off into space. They have no idea. Most of the time, most people think I'm just ignoring them or just like, okay, that's cool. So
right.
it's hard.
Once you think about it, even me, I've been, knock on wood, I say I've been seizure free for going on 4 years, but at the same time, those type of seizures, I may have had one because at the end of the day, like I said, I forget. So I don't know because I can't say that there hasn't been times where even now where I just look off into space and get lost. Like somebody may have been saying something, but in my
Mhm.
head,
The
yeah,
Charlie Brown teacher. It's like you can't hear him at all. It's like I
And it's to the
never.
point now with me where that happens with me, and I say what, and my like people who know are like, "Did you just have a seizure?" And it's like, "No, I'm fine." Like I was just spacing off like normal people do.
Mhm. And then there's
I
that whole thing where you run into people, so many people that want to protect you with everything, and a lot of times, that's I don't mind that. That's love, but at the same time,
You
I
lose
found
your independence.
yeah, and I found myself now that I'm older, I realize a lot of times I'm selfish when it comes to doing things in the sense of I don't really mind doing things by myself. And I'm a videographer and photographer, so partnership is very important. When you're trying to make movies and stuff like I'm trying to do, partnership is so important, and it's so important to communicate and talk to people. But I found myself struggling with that because growing up, that's the complete opposite of what I did. I didn't talk to people.
Mhm.
I did things by myself because the stigma of everyone need to do something for me. I didn't want that. So I would a lot of the times try to do things by myself. And as I'm older, I realize I repeat that pattern sometimes when I really shouldn't, because now I'm at the stage where it's important to have good partnerships. It's important to
Mhm.
talk. And even my relationships have suffered. I mean, just because I don't really talk enough. Like I find myself sometimes just more comfortable with myself, which is, that's not how I want to be.
I
But
I think that's kind of common in our
I was
community,
gonna say that's
honestly.
like most of us. Like Brie and I, she's probably the person besides my boyfriend that I text and call the most, just because
Mhm.
it's like I don't really want to talk to people, but I want to talk. If I'm gonna talk to someone, I want it to be someone who gets it. So I just text her.
And and even like we can be on FaceTime. I'll just like leave her in the corner of my like bed and we'll just talk and watch movies or something like that, because it's not someone I feel like like other people. I feel like we have different energy levels than them. So it's like I feel like I have to keep up with like what they want to do. And after about 30 minutes, I'm like, dude, I want to go home.
That's the
Like I'm just like,
Yeah, that's how, I mean, luckily, my boyfriend gets it and everything, and I probably sound like one of those annoying people talking about him, but like I'm lucky that he gets it because
right.
Saturday, I met his friends and we kind of went out and did things, but the entire night he was looking at me. He's like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need to go home or are you okay with what we're doing? Do you need to sit
Mhm.
down?" And it was just very comforting to have someone there, like understanding that I can't necessarily keep up with everyone else
For
because
right.
sure.
I think
It's
so
That's
many
dope.
people think,
Yeah. That's a good
yeah,
thing to have somebody like that.
it's hard because it's like up until I made my page, I didn't know anybody else with epilepsy, and they kept saying like it's 1 in 26 people, and I'm still like, where's the other person? I know more than 26 people, like
yeah,
where's the other person with epilepsy? And then like no one got it, so I just kind of like receded, and like you said, my relationship suffered. I was totally fine with just like watching YouTube or like being with my dog, my siblings, all this stuff. I'm fine staying at home. Like people in quarantine are suffering right now. I'm just like, oh, do you have something else to watch? Like that's me right now. I'm totally fine with it. But at the same time, when people want to go do something, I'm very like, I'm kind of antisocial. I don't really want to do anything with people. So unless it's like a certain thing with certain people, but like
like the
I'm not
Zoom.
that great at making friends anymore. I just don't really want to. It just is draining, honestly. It's weird because like you said, you have to like be like an advocate for yourself, but at the same time, when you're having a seizure, someone's like, whoa, don't talk to her, don't talk to her, don't do this, don't do that, so it's like, what do I do now? I don't know what to do. It's weird, but and mine's so rare. I went a year and a half without or not rare, random. I went with a year and a half without seizures, and they just started up full speed. So it's like, I never know when they're going to come back. Right. And that's, I think, a lot of people's fears is that they don't know when's to come back. So they just sit in their bed all day. Guilty. So,
Definitely, it definitely causes us to be very, very introverted, but at the same time, it's really good to talk about it. I'm realizing that, like, it's definitely the best thing to just get it out.
It's definitely hard to start the process of talking about it, but like you said, like as soon as you start talking about it, it's just kind of like this freeing moment where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm myself and not just hiding behind this person I'm pretending to be.
Here's a question for you two, I just want to know if this does at all, if you experience this at all, and the people or you, I know a lot of times my brain is going so incredibly fast. I'm thinking of 10 things at a time. And sometimes this causes me to get stressed, which will cause a headache and then cause a seizure. So is it possible that epilepsy makes our brains go incredibly fast, even when we're not having a seizure or at risk of having a seizure?
So my neurologist was actually just talking about this with me today, because I was telling her, like I've noticed the day before I have a seizure, my speech gets all jumbled. And that's kind of like a warning to me, like, oh, you might have one because I can't talk. And I was telling her about this because this is something that recently started. And she said, we've seen from your EEGs, even when you're not having a seizure, you have sporadic brain activity. So even when you're not actively having a seizure, there is still abnormal overactive activity that isn't there for people who don't have epilepsy. So yeah, our brains are definitely overactive even when we're not having a seizure.
And I have the RNS which is a constant implanted EEG, essentially, that like stimulates my seizures if they can. And my brain activity, like she said, constantly going off. And I actually have to go to sleep at night because my brain goes like 90 miles an hour. I have to smoke weed to shut my brain down to go to sleep. And people are like, oh, you're just a stoner, blah, blah, blah. I'm not smoking because I like getting high. I like smoking so my brain can just shut up for 5 seconds. Because yes,
you know how hard that hit when you just said that. Oh my goodness. Because I smoke as well. But I say now I'm addicted. Now I would say I'm a stoner. But at the same time, it didn't start that way. It definitely started as a medication. And as you said, I never looked at it that way, but that's so true, to make your brain shut up for a second.
It shuts down. And it's like, I personally like, this is here's my pro weed thing. And now we need to find someone else that can't smoke. Well, there you go. Grace cannot. But my friend also, it causes seizures for him. So I'm going to try to pull him on here one day. But also, I like sativa because it goes straight to your head. Indica makes your body relax. That's fine after a seizure. But if my brain is running like a freaking hamster on a wheel when I'm trying to just watch a YouTube video, I want it to go to my head and it just shuts down.
See, this would have been nice to have in the EMU when I was being monitored and couldn't sleep. But on day to day, I don't have trouble sleeping. So I've never needed anything really to help me sleep. It's more so for me stress during the day, but almost as soon as my head hits my pillow, I like turn Netflix on in the background. I'm out.
Good thing you're in Vegas right now because they've got that hooked up for you. Finally.
Robert. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm in California. It's all over the place for me.
It helps me. It does help me. Like you said, definitely helps me slow my brain down for a minute. But it also helps me with that fear of judgment. That just everyday thing. I mean, not now, of course, because I'm older, but growing up though, that fear of judgment was so real. I would do things that weren't me just because I was afraid that somebody was going to judge me if I did something that I wanted to do, type thing. So that fear of judgment completely goes away after I've smoked. Like, you know what I mean?
You're like, your barrier of protecting yourself goes down. You're more relaxed.
Right, but like without it, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm the type of person. I'm so my mind is moving so much that I'm taking notes on everything. I realize now that it's not the worst thing in the world, but in my head, so many notes are. And the sad thing is, those notes aren't actually usually written down. Now I write them down now, but I don't.
I screenshot a lot of stuff.
It's just these thoughts that pop in my head. I'm like,
and it's like Grace knows I'm on West Coast time, she's on East Coast time. I'll be texting her like midnight my time, 3:00 her time. I'm like, oh my god, I just thought of this, and I'm like, okay, I need to smoke weed. I am just like freaking out texting her like a 5-page thing right now. But it's like, this sounds like, like you said, yeah, I do love it now, but I enjoy it. Sometimes if I'm just in a bad mood, I'll put it on and put my music on, and it really helps. Music hits different high. I'm sorry, y'all, but it does.
I love music. It hits different high, but it hits different, period. I swear, music
It is
me all the way down. Some people be talking about my music style because I don't just like just rap or just R&B. Like, I like rap, R&B. There's some rock songs I like. Like, I like pop. I just like the mood. So like,
that's me. I went
to
to school for music, so it's like, if it's good, it's good. That's me. If it's good, it's good. I mean, probably my favorite, which is going to shock a lot of people, like by looking at me and all my tattoos, is reggae. But I just mentioned that I smoke weed, but I love it. It's so calming, and it's like, when after a seizure, that's my go-to music. I put it on, or Freddie Mercury, because that's my dude. But like reggae, I put it on, and I smoke. My brain calms down. The postictal stage goes off, and I'm like, you know what? This helps. And I think a lot of us, I'm not sure if all of us have anxiety, but I'm pretty sure a good amount of us with epilepsy have anxiety, even if it's just mild.
I didn't know that. Okay. Because maybe I do. I don't know.
Anxiety does make your thoughts race. I will say that. Correct, Grace?
I'll be texting Brie, like, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? Given during the day, not at night. But she's like, she'll call me and she'll be like, shut up. And I'm like, sorry.
It's not even that bad. It's just when she's being irrational and I have to shut her up, and then she's getting inside her own head. I'm like, here comes the seizure. All right, gotta shut her up. But it's usually things that you race on and on about that you don't even remember later on, that you're freaking out about. Like, I'm doing that. I'm just sitting there. I'm going on and on and on about, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I need to get this done. And then I'm like, oh, what was that I needed to get done again? The other
thing about why I take notes is my memory within just the past couple, like 2 or 3 years, has gone to like absolute crap. My memory is so awful.
Mm-hmm. And
I remember the stupid little details. Like, I'll remember someone's name who I met once 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember like
important question. I'm like,
my ex's ex's sister's birthday. I'm like, what the hell do I need that for? But all right, but I can't remember if I took my meds, something like that. I'm like, all right. But what was I gonna say? I don't know. I think yours are temporal lobe. No, yours are occipital lobe, Grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mine are temporal lobe, and
I call it to parietal. So
okay. So my epileptologist at UCLA told me that obviously, I mean, he's not lying, but your memory is in your temporal lobe. So if you have any activity in your temporal lobes, it's going to really affect your memory. Like,
you said temporal lobe. That's right here by the temple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have both temporal lobes. They thought it was just the right eventually at first, and they're like, oh, maybe it's the left, and then I'm like, maybe it's both. They're like, yeah, actually it's both. I'm like, okay. So I got both of them, but so my memory is just, I've made it into a joke almost now. It's kind of comical. Because
mine is terrible too. Definitely.
What else am I gonna do but laugh about it? Because otherwise it's gonna make me really sad,
Right.
And I know a lot of people get really sad because they can't control it, but I'm almost
frustrated. But yeah, at the same time, I try and make jokes about it because for me, it's more like, what am I gonna do?
Exactly. And it's like, I don't know what to do about it except laugh, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's kind of like epilepsy too. It's not funny that I'm having seizures, but the ramblings I do after a seizure can be hysterical.
Right. And honestly, that's the best way to deal with it. To not.
I think so. And it's like, with your Stevens-Johnson syndrome, I'm sure it's not funny at all, but it's like, if you make lighthearted jokes here and there, it kind of helps, I'm sure. But it's just like my scars with my brain surgery. I just laugh about it. I tell them I'm like a robot and stuff. It doesn't bother me. It is what it is. It's how you cope with it, unfortunately, because it's permanent.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I joke about like the designer bags under my eyes after I have a seizure. Like I tell my boyfriend, like, I don't drink, so I'm a cheap date and I already have designer bags. And he's like, oh my God, like who am I dating? And I'm like, you're welcome.
I know. I tell my boyfriend I get in a hockey fight and he starts laughing. And he's like, oh wow. He's like, you do look like it though. Like mine will be like 3D. Like, you can almost pick them up. They're intense, but I'm not talking crap at anybody listening to this that doesn't think it's quote unquote funny, but it really does help, like to make a lighthearted joke about it. Just get over it because it's not going away. I hate to admit it. Or hate to shove that down your throat, I guess you could say, because I think we all know it's not going away. But yeah, what is the statistic for Stevens-Johnson syndrome? Like 1 in 20,000, I think, that get it, or 20,000 people I get it. I mean, every year, something like that. It's I'm trying to I know there's a lot of people take Lamictal, so I don't want them to automatically run to their doctor and freak out about.
Well, Lamictal gave me insomnia.
And Lamictal gave people lucid dreams. I know that. I've never tried Lamictal.
With Lamictal, I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. But
exactly.
All right. So your question was just how many? What's the statistics? Okay.
I'm like, I was kind of like talking out loud. I wasn't just putting that on you. I promise. I'm like, what is?
I know you wasn't, but that's a good question. I don't know.
When I look it up, I see fewer than 20,000 U.S. cases per year.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it is very, very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Heard that.
Okay, so for those listening again, it says short-term resolves within days to weeks. So it's not going to be,
but it obviously has some lasting effects.
Yes.
Like Robert still has some,
Yes, but it's not going to be something, that you're going to have to manage every single day like your epilepsy. Because I thought it was something that could come back, like some other skin conditions.
Right, no.
Thank God for that, because I can only imagine.
One, Grace, I wanted to give you your credit, right? Because you're very fast. And I was putting that thing up for like 10 minutes after you said that. And I'm like, I don't want to give up now. I didn't look it up now. But
to be fair, I already had it up on my phone, so I was kind of cheating.
She's sitting there taking notes. She's fact checking, which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. That was dope. I was like, oh man.
I know. She's just like, actually.
So yeah, this is saying that long-term effects of Stevens-Johnson syndrome can include, like Robert, you said, changes in skin pigmentation, dryness of the skin, excess sweating, hair loss, abnormal growth or loss of finger and toenails, like all things you were saying.
Mm-hmm. It's such a weird, I wonder specifically what it goes after to make all those different effects, though. That's such a weird, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's such an interesting thing that happens. I guess I have to ask the obvious question. Is it really painful?
So it is, but it's not, it is. I was about to say it's not as painful as it looks, but it is pretty painful. Yeah, definitely.
Because I was gonna say, like the photos I've seen, it looks brutal. So it's like I'm sure they put the gross ones up, but
no. I mean, all of them are really gross. Honestly, I haven't seen a PG picture of it because it's all really bad. But I think the most pain happens afterwards, like when you're in the hospital. Not so much. maybe that's just because the drugs.
I was gonna say probably because they're giving you
Right.
painkillers. Yeah.
But at the same time, afterward, like, I would say like a week after, once you start realizing what all happened, like your nails start popping off, stuff like that. Once stuff like that start happening, it hurts. But
I can imagine because just even like bending a nail weirdly hurts really badly. So I can imagine how that would feel just having your nails just be exposed.
it was weird though. So it didn't hurt that much because it's weird because it was almost like the medication made it disconnect. So like it was more prepared to come off than if you just ripped your nail off.
Mm-hmm.
When it came off, it was like the pain was really that soft skin.
Like your nail bed as opposed to like when you rip a nail and.
Right, yeah. So now I was just left with that soft skin that every time
Just have to be really careful with it because I know like
hit something, it's over.
Yeah.
That's whole.
That's a whole new level of pain.
Right. You got that. Yeah, that. So I don't know. There's that. So that hurts. First, your eyes burn a little bit. Like at first. So I would say like the first few weeks, your eyes actually burn, and then yeah.
Does it say, are you light sensitive because of it now?
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit, not that much, but.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't cause seizures, like you're not photosensitive or anything.
No, nothing like that. But surprisingly, light never caused a seizure for me.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Like, not even like strobe lights or anything. I never had soft lights.
No, it's only 3% of us people with epilepsy that get affected by the photosensitive stuff, even though everyone thinks it's everyone outside of the community. Yeah.
My sister also has epilepsy.
Oh.
Have you ever had soft lights, Jay? Yeah, like strobe lights. Nah.
No, it's pretty rare. It's like I know there's a couple of us that it affects, but it's pretty rare.
I would say that I personally only know a handful of people with epilepsy who are
photosensitive. Majority of people, it's stress that causes their seizures that I know.
For me, it's stress, lack of sleep, and hormones.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Anxiety, I guess, but that turns into stress really. So
I say that anxiety and stress kind of go hand in hand because when you're anxious, it stresses you out.
Oh, and coffee randomly for me.
Really?
That's fun. I can drink. I can drink. Like if I wanted to, like a 24 pack of soda a day, I'd be fine. Have a cup of coffee, going into a seizure.
Never met anybody that actually proved that, but I heard that theory though. Heard that, okay.
It's weird, and I figured it out when I was with my best friend on a cruise to Hawaii. We were in the middle of the ocean, and we went to the coffee bar that day. All of a sudden, I had a seizure that night, and I'm like wandering around the cruise ship at 4 a.m, and my friend hears our cabin door slam, and she comes in, looks through me, and I guess she escorts me back to our ship room. But I was like going out to like the Lido deck to like almost go see what the hell the ocean was looking at like when I was in a seizure, and I've never slept walk before. That was a weird one, but I left the room with no keys. Thank God I was wearing clothes. No money, no phone, nothing. But she found me, and the rest of the trip, she was like, "You're not having another coffee. I'm sorry." And I was like, "All right, understandable." But then it stopped, and I was able to drink it for a while, and then all of a sudden it started again. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't think it's worth it.
For me, that's like alcohol. Like I can have one glass of something randomly every once in a while, and there's no issue. But the majority of the time I drink, I end up having a seizure. Wow. So I try to avoid it.
That's interesting. My uncle also, he didn't have epilepsy or anything, but now he has epilepsy. He was drinking like heavy for a long time.
Like alcohol induced.
Yeah, so now he has epilepsy, and believe it or not, it's so weird. So he has to kind of stay in the happy medium because like he was having
once he withdraws, he has a seizure.
Both. It's both. So he was having seizures when he wasn't drinking at all, and then
Mm-hmm.
still having seizures if he drank too much. So it's like he gotta stay in the happy medium.
Yeah.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
And that can be tricky to find.
If you're addicted, yeah, it's like, oh, I can have another one 20 later, you know what I mean? So that's very difficult. But and on that note, a lot of people get angry when people, I don't want to say give themselves epilepsy, but you know what I mean? It's caused by
Drugs,
addiction.
alcohol abuse.
Yeah, but you know it happens because I'm sure my doctor's mad at a doctor's mad at someone for being dumb and going skateboarding down a hill and hitting their head on a on a rock and causing themselves to have epilepsy too. It's probably just as stupid of a decision. So
and so we're making the list of things to stay away from. Coffee and alcohol.
See, people Grace drinks coffee all the time and she's just fine with it. When I went to the Caribbean, I had a couple sips of rum, didn't have one, but it was one of those things where I was like, I have to have it down here, they make it. So, but other than that, I didn't need another one the rest of the time I was there. I don't drink at home. I'm okay. But
that was me on Valentine's Day because we went to this fancy Italian restaurant, and I'm like, who am I if I don't get a glass of wine on Valentine's Day at an Italian restaurant? So I had a glass of wine and I was perfectly fine. Hey, that rhymed. Sorry. Anyway, so like I had that, but then other times it's like I have half a beer and my brain is like, nope. And I'm like, what? So okay.
And like we were talking with Dr. Kate, I don't know if anyone's like, I want to like kind of repeat what she says in case people catch this one and not hers. Some days your seizure threshold is just so lowered, like because you're stressed, blah blah blah, like you have hormones, that if some days you can have your drink and you're fine, but if you're just have all these other things stacked against you and you have your coffee and that's the final thing, that'll send you into a seizure. So if you're having just fine day, like type it as far as you know, and then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna have coffee this morning, and you're like, but I didn't have a seizure this time. Well, it's because you don't have the other crap stacked against you. So it's not necessarily not a trigger. It's just, or it might not necessarily be a trigger. It's just the final thing to send your brain over the edge.
I kind of keep like a counter that I see. It's like, okay, well, if I know my hormones are up, then I avoid alcohol. I mean, I try to avoid alcohol all the time, but it's kind of like, okay, I'm going out to a bar with a friend, maybe I can have one beer because my hormones are down, I'm not super stressed, and I kind of like keep a tally almost of everything that I know is a cause that's kind of stacked against me.
Yes. Yes. And it's like one of the, like, I mean,
but it's always a gamble too, because I could be wrong about something.
Exactly. I'm not going to sit here and say I condone people, like drinking. If you want to do that, that's your own brain, your own body, your own epilepsy. But we all know that's a really big trigger for seizures. So, if you have epilepsy and then you decided to get drunk and you have a seizure, duh, like I'm not surprised. But I mean, at the same time, like random things can cause it, like, tea for some people, like a soda, like Mountain Dew for somebody, because that's like, liquid crack. I don't know what that is. That stuff's crazy. My boyfriend loves it, but yeah. So it's just one of those things. Again, I don't want to give out medical advice. I just want to like pass on experience because I'm not a doctor. We're just like kind of reiterating what we've heard. And Dr. Kate was a doctor and she said that. So I will take that as a legitimate source. So that works. But yeah, epilepsy is weird. It's it's a gamble. Literally, it's like living. If people like gambling, they should be epileptic. Let's just put it
you're in Vegas. You're in the gambling capital of the world. Like,
see if they'd like to trade places with you and be epileptic and see how they'd win.
Oh.
It's just, yeah, no. It's a very weird disability, and it's like I've seen, we all have side effects from epilepsy meds. I'm not saying anybody else's are not valid or anything like that, but this one is definitely a more physical and severe symptom.
Yeah.
Or disease or syndrome, I guess we can call it.
Do you have anything else that you would like to add, Robert?
Not really.
Since I just talked about a stigma, I'm gonna put before I drop this. He does do videographer and photography, so look at that. He can be around lights and be epileptic, guys. it's okay.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. That it's crazy that that's a trigger for some people, because that's never affected me in any type of way. If anything, being at a party, if anything affected me being at a party, it was the amount of people I'm around and the situation.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I never
Agreed.
was at a party though. Now that I think about it. Nah.
Nope. I'm not a big partier either, but it's like, yeah, like you said, it's the amount of people and me feeling uncomfortable when I go places more so than the lights. But I do know it's a thing. I know people have told me when they're driving cop cars, like the sirens can trigger it for them, like the blinking lights, all this crazy stuff. And I'm
It's
like,
makes me think like literally anything could be a trigger for someone.
yeah, literally anything. And I know a lot of people be like, no, that can't be true. No, it can be true because it just hasn't happened for you or someone you know yet, because there's some weird ones out there.
Yeah.
Like people get triggered by, I think the smell of like lavender triggers somebody, just that though. So it's
That's
very
a
strange.
specific smell.
Just that specific smell. I'm like, oh well, that sucks because it smells great.
Strong smells trigger migraines for me, but
Me too. Yeah. See, it's the brain's weird. So it's one of those things. The brain is super freaking weird.
I never heard that one. The smell of lavender triggered it.
It's called reflex epilepsy. I'm gonna go into that one this month because I guess it's also very rare. So that's if they have smells or like stuff like that triggers it. It's pretty, like I said, it's very rare. But doesn't sound fun. Strong odors, trying to think of what I'd like, bad odors, which I mean, I don't think it's funny that can cause seizures, but imagine like smelling garbage so bad you have a seizure. Like I'd be like,
I don't mean to laugh, but at the same time.
right? Like it's like I don't mean to laugh at that, but it's just kind of like a wow, dude, you smell so bad you made me have a seizure. Like wow. But yeah. So I'm gonna go into that one. I think tomorrow, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, now we mentioned it. It's a weird type of epilepsy, definitely. There's a lot of weird types of epilepsy.
Yeah, definitely. So, recently, on my show, I mean, not my show, I always call it a show, but my room on Clubhouse, I did this room for epilepsy and mental health. And we recently were talking about rare epilepsy syndromes. So there's a lot of weird ones. There's one where you, where it said you don't feel like it distorts time, space, and body, so like you don't feel like you're there.
Like almost an out of body experience.
Yeah, kind of like an out of body.
Was it the Alice in Wonderland syndrome?
Yeah, yup, Alice in Wonderland syndrome. That's exactly what it was.
You know why it's called that, right?
What'd you say?
I said, you know why it's called that, right? Lewis Carroll had the author of Alice in Wonderland had epilepsy.
Oh.
A lot of people think that it was just drugs that caused him like to write about those, but apparently everything that I've read said that he used his seizure experience to help him write a book, and he drank to keep himself from having seizures, like drank and used drugs to try to keep himself from having seizures, even though we now know that's not the best thing. Yeah.
That contradicts what we just said.
Yeah. But back then they were like, oh, you're having seizures, here's some alcohol and some
opium or something like that. It's weird. And like yeah, so if you rewatch, I mean, I love Johnny Depp, I'm sorry buddy, but not the new version with him, but the original Disney version, with everything going in and out and in and out, that makes kind of sense because it's kind of like mirroring the Alice in Wonderland.
And I have visual seizures, so watching that for me, like I've actually had seizures where things look bigger or smaller at times, and I'm like, whoa.
Or the what's the other thing? I guess like the dodo and all those things are supposed to be him and his lack of memory and all that weird stuff. There's a lot. It's like I'll send you the link to it. Actually, there's a lot of articles that go into depth about him having his epilepsy. It's really interesting. I like it. I might have to, Grace and I might have to do an episode about that because I love Alice in Wonderland. It's my favorite. But yeah, this was a fun episode. We talked about a lot of rare and weird stuff because no one else is open for it. So I really appreciate it. A lot of people, we can't even get them on to talk about their brain surgery. So come on, man. So yes, we appreciate it very, very much. I look forward to probably talking with you in the future about some of this stuff, because this is very interesting, and it needs way more light shown on it because nobody knows about it.
Definitely. If you can come stop into one of my rooms. I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2 to 3.
If you
Okay,
send
perfect.
us a link, we can put that in our.
Yeah, we'll link it. We'll link everybody. So
Yeah,
that's,
thank you. I can't see, my brain is like.
it's all right. It takes
in
three of
the
us
thing.
to make one thought. It's all right. And it's still not complete because 100 divided by 3 is 99. So there you go. What was I gonna say? See, I lost it now. Oh yes,
That's right.
obviously this is open for everybody to come to. I'm sure he's saying not just me and her. So
Yeah,
anybody can come. So we will link it. We need more people definitely to be willing to be the leaders of the community. So appreciate it. So yes, there we go. We will link it, and everyone please stop by and check it out. And he's very, very great to talk to. So appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Well, have a great
so
time in Vegas and all that stuff, and go, break stigmas about hanging out with lights and all that.
Yeah, I'm about to go win some money.
Yeah, go make some money too. There, he can work too. So you guys, there's another stigma crush in one day. All right, go enjoy Vegas. Thank you so much for spending time with us while you're there.
Thank you.